Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Every once in a while, we have to bring out the big dog.
Yeah.
Oh, God help us. It's time for Danny Unleashed. Sponsored by Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Go to eastonroofing.com for more.
Yes, indeed. Third quarter of the program begins right now. Danny Clinkscale joining us here at your neighborhood
Did we
hen
put
house.
3 fingers in the air?
No.
No.
I couldn't tell you read between the lines.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you have the shingles vaccine yet? Have you had that? They have it here at Hen House. They're hard to find, and they have them at all 5 Hen House pharmacies. So keep that in mind when you're stocking up for the weekend with things like the filet mignon. You want to put some fillets on the grill. I'm talking about USDA Choice Certified Hereford beef. The steaks $13.99 a pound. And if you're going to put some burgers on the grill, or maybe you want to make some tacos this weekend, lean ground round, ground fresh several times each day, just $3.79 a pound. It's at your neighborhood Hen House. Go to henhouse.com to find the location nearest you and see all these specials and many, many, many more as you get ready for the weekend. And, of course, we're here by the Harry's Brewery, where you can get real beer now, even on the Kansas side as well. Great selection here at the 135th and Metcalf location. We're on the northeast corner of 135th and Metcalf. So come on by, say hello if you are so inclined. I'll give the next person to ask a Tippins pie.
Ooh, we're all full of prizes today now, aren't we?
We are. I got a Tippins pie for first person to come up and say they heard me say that.
Are we doing the T-shirts here today?
And we are, yes, thank you. And Danny Clinkscale's appearance, the Danny Unleashed, always brought to you by our buddy Joe at Easton Roofing, as you can come on down and take advantage of an Easton Roofing T-shirt if you like. They're the super soft kind of T-shirts, as I grabbed a couple for my daughters. Sorry, I clipped them. Joe, I apologize. But I took 2 for my daughters because they love those super soft T-shirts. Come on down. We've got a wide array of Easton Roofing T-shirts. So we're just giving away. We got T-Bones tickets as well. If you want to go to the Bones.
Big weekend for the Bones.
It's a really big weekend for
That's
the Bones.
Right.
Yes.
Bones, another one of my sponsors.
Well, there you go. Commercial and residential roofing. It is Easton Roofing. Project manager on every job site. Angie's List Super Service Award winner 4 straight years, voted best of houses. You can check out their reviews on Google. They are phenomenal. Joe and his crew repaired our roof. That's right, they do repairs. A lot of roofing companies don't want to mess with us. It's not worth our time. We just put new roofs on. That's all right. Easton Roofing is happy to come do your roof repair. 913-257-5426. See them online at eastonroofing.com. And I will remind you, there are a lot of people that knock on doors trying to give you a new roof or saying, hey, storm blew through. Looks like you got some damage. We'll get it covered through insurance. You put in a false claim, that is bad news for you in the long run. Let Easton Roofing, as we've had some storms again, let Easton Roofing come by and give you a free appraisal, a free look, a free check of your roof. They will be happy to do it. And if you don't need any repairs, then you're good to go. You move along. You don't end up putting in a false claim like a lot of these companies that are just running around knocking on doors like to do. That is bad news for you. When you put in a false claim with the insurance, Easton Roofing can tell you exactly what's going on with your roof. Great, honest roofing company. Integrity, it matters. And Easton Roofing is the best at it. 913-257-5426 online at eastonroofing.com. Danny, how are you, my friend?
Doing very well, Soren. Very exciting day in the life of the Clinkscale family. My daughter.
Why, you're moving out? Couldn't resist.
Don't even tempt my wife right now. My daughter just landed in New York City. She's moving to New York to go to acting school.
Oh, congratulations.
So
That's
she's
awesome.
going to live in Brooklyn. And,
Mehoff, former intern of the program, lives in Brooklyn with his wife and now new baby.
Oh, very neat. And she's going to be meeting her new roommates. Her mom went along. Her mom has never seen a Broadway show, so they're going to see one tomorrow. And then she's going to start looking for jobs. She's going to the Esper Academy. I think that's right. Jeff Goldblum went there, Sam Rockwell, Amy Schumer. So she's got some fast company there. And hopefully, she's going to dip her toe in the water, take some classes, work a lot, and see if she can make the big city dream come real.
Well, there you go. There you go. You got to chase the dreams, right?
That's right.
That's what it's got to be.
Yep.
All right. Well, congrats, buddy.
Thank you.
Huge. A little
Cool.
scary.
Yeah, it's a little scary,
Yeah.
but I think it'll be a good thing either way. You know, you either
chase the dream and you know it. You scratch the itch and
right,
you know.
And you crash and burn a little bit. You learn some life lessons. That's all cool too. So, she's taken a little while to move to this phase of her life, and she's 22 years old, so she knows what she's doing.
Yeah,
I think.
Good for
Sorta,
her.
kinda.
I think it's awesome.
For a clink scare.
If you got a dream, you got to go chase it.
Yeah, that's
whether
exactly
you get there
right.
or not. You got to go chase it.
Right.
Good for her.
It's like those guys. I think it was Sam today said many players, many people who were the finest football player in their town will be looking for work tomorrow.
Yes.
That's the way you put the cuts.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. I mean, these guys are, many of them legendary figures in their own hometowns, maybe members of their own Hall of Fame someday, high school Hall of Fame. And we just consider them roster chum.
Right.
And, they kind of were last night. It's probably one of the cruelest things in sports, what was going on last night for many of these people. But they always say, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. And maybe you can put something on tape. And I'm sure that's the motivation that a guy who probably knows he has zero chance of making the team.
It doesn't lie, but oftentimes if a lot of money or a high draft pick were invested in you, we'll look the other way from it.
You mean like Saunders?
Has not been good. I know it's a great story, but, the defensive lineman that can do tumbling runs, but can he get off a block?
Exactly.
And that's been a real problem for him. I mean, there's always a risk when you go small college. There's some small college guys that come in and rule the world. There are other guys that they just kind of bully balled people. And he looks to me like a guy who just wants to play bully ball, that he just out-strength guys. And now he's up against guys of equal strength, and you have to have technique and moves, and and he's not getting it done. So give me your surprise keep, your surprise cut. Did you hear us talk about this earlier?
Yeah, I did hear you talk about it. Because it's talked about so much, because
Carlos Hyde, I don't consider a surprise if that's where you're going.
Right, and so
either way, he could be a surprise either way.
I don't really know if because it gets discussed so much and everybody comes up with I guess, although he's been playing on a lot of special teams, I guess I would consider, because he had seemed to have risen in the eyes of the fan base, and Dorian O'Daniel, maybe, if he got cut.
I think at this point, and I'm fine with that. I'm not going to be like, that's not a surprise. But it's an open-ended question. It'd certainly be a surprise by the fact that he was a third-round pick last year.
Right, and he seemed to, they had so much trouble in coverage, and that seemed to be a strength of his. And he seems to be the person who was absolutely the most affected by the new defensive regime, because the old regime seemed to like him, or at least he was growing in their eyes.
Right.
He wasn't playing very much. Then he would play a little more as the season went along. They were having so much trouble in coverage. That seemed to be a strength of his. Fans noted that. And then it's just been kind of nothing so far this year.
So let's talk a little bit about the drafts.
Well, I think that I was just about to say that really Brett Veach is a very fascinating discussion point a couple of years in, because clearly the Chiefs are a rollicking good football team right now. And he wears the aroma, the good aroma, I'm saying. He wears the cologne of supposedly being the biggest advocate for Patrick Mahomes. But there have been some real head-scratchers as far as the draft. And now in Carlos Hyde's case, they gave him $1.5 million guaranteed, which isn't nothing. I mean, it's not huge money. And it appears they completely misjudged the player. Now, you can balance that off by saying, well, look, for every bad decision that you're making, you're really replacing that guy, if Carlos Hyde gets cut, for instance, with what you would consider maybe a surprise breakthrough player. So I guess you can always look at it both ways. But between the draft and especially those second and third round picks the last few years for the Chiefs, even before his official face of being the actual general manager, does include some head scratchers. There's no doubt.
Breland Speaks, Derek Nottie, Dorian O'Daniel, Armani Watts, Traymon Smith, and Khalil McKenzie.
Right. Exactly.
That was last year's draft.
Mm-hmm. That's a bad draft. Now, you've talked about it before that many GMs seem to have a tough go of it in their first draft.
Maybe they signing scouts and figuring things out,
and maybe they still have more of a scout's eye on things. Their job isn't completely on the line. Maybe when some guy's a scout, he advocates for upside players, and so when that and then maybe some of his more outlandish ideas get talked out of the trees by other people.
Right.
But then the one he stamps his fist
now
on
he's
said,
left to his own devices.
Right. Yeah. So, empty drafts hurt a football team these days because you're talking about an NFL scenario where almost all draft choices these days make teams. I mean, it's a surprise when any draft choice gets cut because they're cheap players and they're young, and the NFL is more physical than ever, and guys are going to walk away from the game voluntarily more than ever. So it's a younger man's sport than it's ever been.
You need good young players that you drafted. You need guys that aren't making the top bucks. I'm going to tell you, if you keep swinging and missing in the draft, you cannot have $100 million in Chris Jones, $100 million in Frank Clark, $100 million in Tyreek Hill, $200 million in Patrick Mahomes. You can do those things if you're hitting with all your seconds and thirds. First of all, you probably need to be also kind of moving out of first or moving down in the first, which they're already picking low in the first. But you need to be hitting with second and third round picks. Like Chris Jones is what? A proven commodity playing in his fourth year, and he counts $1.2 million against their cap.
Exactly. And
you need
that's
Chris
invaluable.
Jones.
Yes.
Okay? You need guys like that are getting it done at a high level. Now, if Tano Passanio, and again, Brett Veach didn't actually make this pick, if he's going to become a productive part of a defensive line rotation, that 17 draft, which was the last one for Dorsey, looks really good because Mahomes is at the top. And then Tano Passanio, Kareem Hunt. And then we move on from Jehu Chesson, Akemi Eligwe, Leon McQuay. The Chris Jones 16, Chris Jones. Kavari Russell, gone. Parker Anger, gone. Eric Murray, gone. Demarcus Robinson.
Here.
Kevin Hogan, gone. Tyreek Hill, big hit. DJ White, and Daddy Nicholas.
Yeah, when you get a surprise star, it kind of covers some warts, I'll say that.
It does. But Tyreek Hill and Chris Jones make that a fine draft. You got different makers. And DeMarcus Robinson belongs on the team. He does not suck. Now, if you go back to 15, Marcus Peters moved him for other picks, but had to move him. Mitch Morse didn't keep him. Chris Conley didn't keep him. Steven Nelson didn't keep him. Ramik Wilson, DJ Alexander, James O'Shaughnessy, Rakeem Nunez-Roches, Deron Brown. What you have to show right now is what? The second-round pick you used this year on Thornhill, I think. That's what's left of that draft class. I think Thornhill was the Rams. That was the Rams. He was at the very end of the second round.
Right.
Pick number 63. And then 56 was Hardman, and they used fourth, I think, to move up 5 spots and get him. I'm optimistic that, now part of it's just because we haven't seen these guys fail, but Hardman, Thornhill, and Darwin Thompson all look like, or Darwin Thompson, all look like players. Saunders does not. I have not seen Fenton make a peep. And Nick Allegretti was playing with the guys that ain't going to make the team.
Right.
So,
and you'll be proud of me. I watched more of that game than I had every right to watch.
Oh, I went back. I keep waking up and then going back. And
it's like, what am I doing? And then I was like,
and
well, there's nothing else on.
And what was the result?
I don't know if I really got much out of it is what I was getting at.
That's true.
But it was something that, two teams wearing NFL uniforms were out there. I guess that was the allure.
So the surprise keep and cut, how do you say the linebacker's name, Chris? You can feel free to join the effort if you'd like to put a headset on and be a part of the program and everything.
You came here. I mean,
you bothered to get here to Hen House.
Maybe you just wanted a tub of free ice cream.
That could be it.
Sometimes it could be risky jumping on in the middle of a segment. I thought I'd wait to break.
But we're not launching a shuttle here.
That's true.
It's not that risky.
It seems like it sometimes.
What was the linebacker's name, the Jets linebacker that played all night last night?
Darren Lee.
No.
Oh.
The other one. Lee is a Jet linebacker, yes. But he didn't play all night. Atachu or –
Atachu? Yeah, and he had two
former
sacks.
Charger?
Yeah. But he played – didn't he come – he was for the Jets most recently, wasn't he? Maybe I screwed it up. I'm sorry. Because I threw you the wrong way. I thought he was a Jet.
Anyway, that player became a sexy morning pick.
Right, and
today.
so you know what I think that was let's showcase him, hope he has a big day, and see if we can trade him in the next 2 days. That's all I think that was. I don't think he's going to make the squad. I mean, I think they felt like, listen, this is a veteran guy. Yeah, he was most recently with the Jets.
Was he? I remember that they kept mentioning the Chargers, his time with the Chargers, I guess because they played the Chiefs.
Well, was that sideline college guy?
No.
Okay. But, yeah, signed with the Jets in September of 18. So it was with the Chargers, Niners, then the Jets, and then came here. If he makes a team, fine. But he's not going to – I'm looking at this resume, and Mike Vrabel was a third-round pick of the Steelers, never really did anything there. But he was on the team, and he played special teams. He got to the Patriots, and he blew up. You tell me the guy. I mean, maybe the best guy is the outside linebacker for the Steelers. The little short one, that Super Bowl.
Oh, James Harrison.
James Harrison. But I think he was only cut by the Bengals and then went to the Steelers and took off. I mean, this guy's bounced to 3 different teams, and then he comes here.
Teams don't generally, those guys don't catch on and become all pros.
I will never swim to Puerto Rico, as Danny was willing to do.
I was willing.
If Pena hit 300, because I'm too afraid I'd have to try to do it. But, I mean, if I had that kind of crass nature that Danny does, the kind of stones that he does, I would tell you he's never going to make a significant difference for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not going to happen.
He would have by now for
Well,
somebody.
I think that it's a different position on the football field, but it seems to me that given even a close to 50-50 call, go with a younger player who hasn't failed yet in the NFL. You know, to me, that's just wise. You know, much more room for growth. If 3 coaching staffs have seen an NFL player and decided no mas, it's probably a stretch that he's going to have some impact.
Well, I'm going to say this: you can't keep having zeros in the third round.
Right? No, you can't.
I mean, that's got to change.
Because we think. I think there are. You know, I'm obviously a little older, but I think a lot of people still have, a lot of football fans still have older ideas about what the draft should be. And third rounders should start. Well, and pretty quick. I know you think first rounders should be stars, second rounders should start right away.
No, first rounders should start right away. Second rounders should start sometime in the first year, and a third rounder needs to start by somewhere in the second year.
How much is the changing perception of the third-round guy come from the fact that they're split days now? When it was the first day, first, second, third round, that the day one guy. Now,
I think
third round, it's the end of the second day.
Good point.
Listening, and they don't.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I'll say this. I mean, I do think that the warning flag for me was when they immediately started talking about Dorian O'Daniel as a nickel safety type of thing, and I went, huh? But then they turned around and with their fourth-round pick, Armani Watts, we're talking about how much they loved Armani Watts in the fourth round, like he was going to be a starter. Well, we know how much they loved Armani Watts. They went out and drafted Juan Thornhill and signed Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah.
So they didn't love him that much.
I mean, the next year, they're like, no. I mean,
cash capital and draft capital.
Here's one thing that's going to make it harder to just make a case and say definitively Brett Veach has a problem drafting. Changing defensive coordinators. It's a get-out-of-jail-free card. And it's why you got to measure your words when, a lot of our guys actually fit the 4-3 better, which I agree they do. But they got to get out and play. Well, and that's Breland Speaks. And
the other thing is, it's difficult to have a discussion right now about the Chiefs with people having good ears for you if you're going to say anything negative at all.
Yeah. All anyone wants to hear is why they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
This is sort of 2015 Royals-ish right now. The Royals were hot. They were newly popular. Now the Chiefs are in the same position because they have a quarterback, for one. And so the expectation is that they can make this. They're the Super Bowl favorite. Of course they can make the Super Bowl. And how can you possibly be criticizing the general manager of a potential Super Bowl champion? Well, we're really criticizing him per se, thinking more about 2021. If your team you have to keep filling in with older players, more expensive players. Maybe you're going to have to let out Juan Thornhill becomes a very good player. maybe you just have to say goodbye to Juan Thornhill because you can't afford him because you have drafted poorly. That's what we're looking at here, that you won't be able to sign a player that you want for the big money because your roster is depleted, and you've had to fill in with $4 million vets.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, if you can't hit in the second and third round, you can't be trading your first round for guys that are $100 million.
Right.
I mean, Frank Clark's great if you knock it out of the park in the second and third. You'd be like, well, we think the pass rushers are at 27 or, they're just kind of okay. And, so we're moving Frank Clark, who we think, right now in this draft would be number 6. Okay, that's fine. But then, the number 27 wasn't going to cost you $18 million a year on your cap. That's the part of it. It's time to start getting concerned.
I don't disagree. I think if your first-round draft choice ends up playing good football or you use that draft capital for something valuable, a lot of times people just sort of say, well, the second and third didn't pan out, but, gee, Frank Clark's great. Or, we got Patrick Mahomes, so what? Well, and Patrick Mahomes is going to cover a lot of ills. There's no question about that. And you can probably have a slightly lesser roster, and Patrick Mahomes will still be able to overcome it. But let's just remember, I think we think now, in retrospect, looking back, that Green Bay has done a pretty poor job of drafting over the last few years.
Well, that's the drafts I'm calling up right now. I have the same thought.
And Aaron Rodgers has gone to one stinking Super Bowl. So you do have to have a football team no matter how good a quarterback you have. And Aaron Rodgers is as good as it gets, whatever kind of pain in the ass he is.
All right. And by the way, real quick on the Packers. You look at the top of their draft and you tell me the guys over the last few years that jump out at you as making big impacts. Jair Alexander, Josh Jackson. I know he got a lot of buzz around here, but he didn't have an interception last year. Oren Burks. I'm just giving you first, second, thirds. Kevin King, Josh Jones, Montravius Adams, Kenny Clark, Jason Spriggs, Kyler Fackrell, Demarius Randall, Quentin Rollins, Ty Montgomery, Clinton Dix, they walked on. Devontae Adams has been good. Kerry Thornton, Richard Rodgers. I mean, it's a couple names where you're like, well, that guy's played, but they have been missing in those spots. Mm-hmm. And you can blame Mike McCarthy all you want, but Aaron Rodgers needs players around him. And this is how you end up looking like the Packers, which means you're good enough to fight your way to 10-6 off the arm of your quarterback, but you're not really a major threat to blow anyone down. So we're going to take a break. Listen,
and just before we take a break, the bar is all the way up now. I mean, from now on.
Yes.
I mean, so a 9-7 season is going to be seen as a calamity around here now.
Before we take a break, we're going to switch gears and talk Royals ownership, as it is now being reported as final. Is that right, Curtis?
Yeah, a confirmation and a couple of official statements, both from John Sherman and from David Glass. Royals have confirmed the agreement of the sale of the team to a group led by John Sherman. Deal will have to be approved in November by other owners. From John Sherman, quote, "Our goal will be threefold: to compete for a championship on behalf of our fans, to honor their passion, their experience, and their unwavering commitment, to carry their hopes and dreams forward in this great Kansas City region for decades to come." From David Glass, quote, "As for my family, it has been an amazing run. I will never forget the thrill of seeing over 800,000 people of this community come together one sunny November day to salute the newly crowned world champions. It's been a fantastic ride."
All right, we'll talk about that. There is a new owner in agreement right now. Major League Baseball still has to approve the sale. That would come in November. We will talk about it, what it means. Danny Klinkseal's with us. It's Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. They love repairs, customer service. That is their focus. Project manager on every site, commercial or residential. It's Easton Roofing. 4 straight years voted best of houses. Angie's List Super Service Award winner. Find them online at eastonroofing.com.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker of Easton Roofing. And Joe, oftentimes people will wait to replace their roof until there is a weather event. What should they know about that?
Well, Danny, the important thing to remember is if you're going to turn in a claim to your insurance company, you want to make sure that you actually have damage on your home. If you turn in a claim to your insurance company and they send an insurance adjuster out it's going to be a claim whether they give you $1 or $10,000. So it's important to make sure that you actually have damage on your home before you turn that claim in. And all you have to do is give us a call. We'll come out, take a look, and make sure there's real damage, and we'll tell you if there's not. Maybe it's just a small repair and it's not worth a claim. So it's always smart to get somebody you trust to make sure there's damage before you turn in a claim.
Quality advice and guidance from Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
Cody Bellinger has 42 home runs this season. How many pitchers has he gotten more than once?
Divisional play.
Yeah, but it's just how many.
I know. I'm
guys
just saying
you
he's going to play
he
those
got more
teams
than once.
more. So I'll say
one.
I'll say he's gotten 7 more than once.
None.
Yeah, I was going to say.
42 off 42 different guys. He's
Figured the number had to be low.
only one batter in Major League history has ever hit at least 40 homers in a season, all of them coming off different pitchers. Albert Pujols, 2015.
Wow.
It's like a serial killer. Just doesn't want to repeat his work. Shoot one of somebody who's already
40.
dead. Yeah, that's Danny Cleanscale with a positive, upbeat approach to things that are going on. Why wouldn't it be?
Of course.
Really, I'll be honest with you. What were we playing for there, Curtis? Joe's
Kansas City
Joe's
Barbecue.
Kansas City Barbecue. Get it on your way home tonight, joeskc.com. And don't forget about the 180 room. That's right, you can rent it out for big events. You get the family together, or maybe you just got a big work party you want to have, whatever it is, corporate event, family event, wedding reception, the 180 room, private dining event space with Joe's Kansas City Barbecue. Of course, there's chef-created side dishes, desserts, full-service bar, all in a great upscale location. Learn more about hosting an event at the 180 room by calling 913-390-0180. It is Danny Unleashed. Danny Cleanscale with us, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing, eastonroofing.com. We've got T-shirts if you'd like a nice, soft T-shirt to have to roam about town with the Easton Roofing logo on it. Feel free to stop on by. We will be happy to give you one of the T-shirts. I will give you a Tippins pie. They just handed me some more. I will give you a Tippins pie while they last.
Wow.
Free Tippins pie while they last. So stop on by. We're at the Hen House at 135th and Metcalf. That's 6900 West 135th Street. Great specials back at the meat counter all throughout the store. See more at henhouse.com. All right, the news is that it is official. The sale has been completed between the two individuals. We will wait till the owners' meeting in November where they would approve it.
When they will approve it.
Yes, I would think so.
Yeah, probably not much doubt.
I mean, they
think
have to approve minority owners. I assume they do.
I think they still have to. My understanding is
because would he have been previously approved by Major League Baseball?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, do you have to approve selling a portion? I think so. I would agree. I consider it a formality because from what I've heard, you have to get all your ducks in a row to get to this point. And so, yes, the owners' meeting is largely considered a formality when it gets to this point. But you've expressed, Bob Nightingale, and I got a text from somebody saying they're not buying the health scare. I will tell you, I personally think, and I didn't want to go too far near it because I try to respect people's privacy, but David Glass has looked frail. And the report came out from Bob Nightingale yesterday that the sale was expedited because of health issues.
And that sounds like a credible report to me because I think Bob Nightingale is a good reporter.
Just to finish my thought, my point is, if there's a reason why this is being announced faster than it normally would and why the November isn't a formality is if there really is a major health issue and time is of the essence. Then that is one reason that I could see that they're like, we got to get our part done. I ain't got time to screw around with baseball because I got to get this done. Now, if that's the case, then I suppose maybe there's more to be done at the owners' meetings than we would normally realize. But largely, the owners' meeting is a formality.
Yeah, and I hope I don't even want to raise the possibility of what do they do in the case of maybe they have information that David Glass is very ill, and I assume they have the capability of not waiting till the owners' meeting. I'm hoping against hope. This is not any issue whatsoever, that they can certainly wait, but that's not guaranteed. And just the incredibly accelerated nature of it, particularly when and I guess you can't sort of, but John Sherman didn't even want to really release a statement at first when the reports came out.
Right.
And now just a few days later, they're releasing official statements, and this is really obviously a go. And we'll never know, if this is, a 75%, like he really didn't want to sell the team at all, period, at least at this time, or I think you've pointed this out too. The whole scenario does point to the fact that it would seem that David Glass is, by his actions, saying that he doesn't think his son is owner's material. I do think that.
Listen, I think most people come to that conclusion. That's fine, and I'm fine with that being stated. I do, but I feel compelled. I think it is important to note that I believe that the tax bill, it's not that the rest of his worth is enough to inherit. People need to understand, if the three children inherit the team, they have to pay taxes on it based upon what it's worth. So the taxes they will pay are the same whether they have the team or the cash. The difference is you don't have the cash from the team to pay the taxes. So you have to have whatever other assets to pay what roughly is, if the $1 billion even is correct, is going to be $370 million in taxes. Or $360 million in taxes.
Right.
So if the rest of his estate is worth, at one point the rest of his, when he bought the team, I remember him being valued at $300 million. That means he had an additional $200 million off the 96, or call it 100 even. If you take the normal stock market rise, he would be at about $800 million in worth. Maybe he's not. Maybe they bought other things. Maybe I don't know. So if you only have $250 million in other assets, then you can't pay the tax bill. You would have to sell the team anyway.
Right.
Then you're selling the team under duress, and why would anybody give you full market value?
Right,
so,
and we've seen messy situations when
there
people have passed away.
There are reasons. Like I've been told that I'll give you an example. If one of the Hunt children were to say, I'm out. I want my fifth. Right? There are five of them that own it. Clark is the chairman. That Clark has to buy them out. But the NFL rules, now baseball doesn't have these same kind of rules, but the NFL rules are whoever, he's grandfathered in. He does not own enough. The NFL, you have to own 60% of the team and 51% liquid as the lead guy. But if you inherit it, you don't have to meet that. But if anyone sells, you have to buy them out. Now, I hear that Clark could do that. Could he do it for four of them? I don't know. I kind of tend to think not when the price is, $2 or $3 billion now? They're calling the Chiefs. But those things, so there are
I'm not saying it's the
monetary
only,
hurdles.
I'm not saying that any of these things are the ultimate reason why the team is being sold, or but we do know that the other two children have no interest in the baseball team and having the baseball team. So they clearly want it sold if their father is going to pass away. There's no question about it. And they know he's going to pass away sometime. It's a morbid subject, but I wrote a blog about it, and people can read that.
At DannyClinkscale.com.
DannyClinkscale.com. And it's a complicated issue. I think it's been a complicated issue to figure out why the fans are they're literally giddy. Now, they're probably feeling a little low now. People who are really excited probably have a little guilt pang because, oh, my God, the poor man's sick. But the insta reaction to the fact that the team was going to be passed on to John Sherman was borderline delirium.
Right.
People were fired up, and I get that. I do understand that. It's a little unfair to the legacy of David Glass, but he did a lot of things wrong before he did things right, and it's hard to overcome that. There's a litany of things he did. He said he was going to move here. He didn't move here. Then he put Dan in a position of relative importance. I re-related the story about, and I couldn't remember
not arguing with
the picture when he was sent to sign Hippolito Pichardo, and he gave him twice the money, which I even put in perhaps as an apocryphal story, but everybody believes it.
Right.
It was supposed to be 2 for 4, and he gave him 4
for 2.
$4 million per year.
Right.
Something like that. He gave him double anyway. He messed up the
I can tell you the story where Carlos Beltran was agreeing to a 3-year extension to stay in Kansas City, and they had the deal done, and they said, okay, we're ready to go. And he said, well, let's see if he'll take $1 million less. And at that point, he said, yeah, I'm done. Not now, not ever. That's it. That's the final straw.
Oops.
And they ended up having to trade him, and it was a deal that wasn't very good. They were trading a player under duress.
And they wanted major league players for him, which compromises any deal. And
right. So, listen, I said this. I was on in Vegas yesterday because Vegas has been rumored to be going after the Diamondbacks now, and I was just out there and with friends that cover the sports out there, and they said, listen, I think they were Kansas City's Sprint Center to the Penguins is what they were for the Diamondbacks to get them a new ballpark, but they're on the radar for a baseball team, and they're trying for one. And so every time there's a sale, they're now like, oh, can we get them and move them here? And so I was brought on to talk about, where it was and what's the history behind it. And they asked me, what is the legacy of David Glass? And we've kind of posed that and kicked it around a little bit. I said, he is a man that has won as many World Series and as many pennants as Ewing Kauffman, whom they have a statue for Ewing Kauffman, and his wife, who brought baseball back to Kansas City. Didn't want to own a baseball team. They asked him to. He did it. Ran a payroll well above the market. Did all those things. His ultimate success is as high as the guy that they did build a statue for and name the stadium after. His lows are lower than anybody else's low. Right. You can make a case for building the man a statue, and you can make a case for never speaking his name again.
I
mean, that's the
and the problem is that the never speaking of him again came first
and last. And you scarred fans early,
right? And then you soured them at their most happy. The way I phrased it was, fans who had been given 2 decades of miserable baseball finally got to taste cool champagne for 2 years, only to be thrown back out into the desert.
I think that's unfair. I think 16 and 17 were contending years. That's what contenders look like. You don't go to the playoffs in small markets.
Yeah, but they were barely were contending.
I would argue that point.
I mean, if we were saying that, and we were, I think maybe you were too, if we were saying they should have been making deadline deals to sell, then how real was their contention?
Well, because I think people because there's a difference between contending and being the favorite. Right? They only contended in 14. There were people that wanted everybody fired in 14. So it's revisionist history to act like 14 we were all in and we were all about it. People didn't get on board until about August 28th. Right. Until about now. Yeah, this is when people got on board. They were trying to fire him 5 games into the All-Star break when they were below 500. They came out in 5 days after the All-Star break. What did they lose? 5 in a row?
Yeah, they were 2 games.
They were 2 games under 500, and we were taking calls about how bad the James Shields deal was, and Dayton Moore and Ned Yost got to go. So, but they were a contender. But people didn't want to hear that. They wanted the playoffs. It was playoffs or bust, playoffs or nothing. They had a winning record in 13, and that year really they were
86.
Frankly, less of a contender than they were, in my opinion, in 16 and 17, because it was a bunch of wins late that kind of got them to where you could see it, but they were never really in it. In 16, they were in first place at one point in the May, June-ish area, and they were always in touch.
They were,
and then
it was especially in 17, it was like. It was like
14. It was like, they just didn't get red hot. It was at like the end of August.
It was like goofy baseball math. That was when I would often point out how games back is the most optimistic statistic in all of sports.
I mean, to me, it's just look. I think if you're going to say like this barren wasteland,
I'm not going to say.
And we talk about 100 losses, then when you're at 500 and within, shooting distance of being in contention, acting like you're not in contention belittles the point. It belittles to me how bad the 100-loss years are. This sucks. And if you act like this year is the same as 17,
absolutely not.
You absolutely. Well, people don't understand how bad it is to lose 100 games.
Right. Oh, no doubt about that. And they weren't bad in either of those years. But if they had followed up those 2 years with 2 more like it.
The other thing that drives me crazy about that attitude is, if we just play 500 baseball, I'd love it. And then they play 500, and it's crap.
Well, that's
because your royalty has seen 2 years that were really good, and now you're going to be like,
no,
I'm such a baseball snob. I'll only go if we're going to win 94 or more.
Well, that's going to be that's going to be the world of the Chiefs now.
Well, and I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to give you the other side of it, right? Like, I think people are grossly overreacting in 16 and 17, and when they want to fire everybody, and even now wanting to fire everybody, because this is what rebuilds look like. And when you talk about, if we were talking about trading people in 17, then, I mean, how much in contention were they? Good, fair point. But if we were talking about trading people in 17, let's not bitch when we're going through what it was we all asked for. They should be rebuilding. They should be trading people. This is what it looks like.
Right,
this is tanking.
Right.
You wanted tanking? It looks like it. They may not have called it tanking. You may be mad because they didn't put a sign out that says, we will tank now on the back of Kauffman Stadium when you drive down 70. But this is it. This is what you wanted.
I think they made mistakes that caused them to be in this position. Now, this position is exacerbated by the way the baseball is now. There's super teams and there's crummy teams.
Right.
And teams don't try. So these teams are worse than we've seen in the past.
All right, let's take a break. We will come back. We'll talk some more. The sale is final. David Glass selling the team to John Sherman. They have each made a statement, or John Sherman's made a statement talking about what it is he wants. It's Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
All right, welcome back here to the program here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. This is Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Repairs, the whole roof. They do it all, commercial and residential. Customer service is their focus. That's why they win every award you can possibly win. Call them right now at 913-257-5426. Find them online at eastonroofing.com. All right, Danny, here's the one thing about Sherman. He ain't coming in and hanging a number 3 payroll in baseball. I think that's one thing that I keep hearing people act like it's going to be this huge.
No, I don't. And I just don't think you're ever going to get ahead of the super spenders. But I do get the sense that this guy, he's not 45 years old. He's not an old man either.
64. He's about the same age as David Glass was.
Right. And I do get a little more sense of urgency for him. I think it was it Jason Stark on with you? I'm trying to think of or some
Jeff Passan.
One of the Jeff Passan talking about the fact that the sense of urgency in the Cleveland organization was attributed to him. The guy's been a winner at whatever he's done. So I think as a fan and somebody who's been a season ticket holder, I think he probably feels the pain of the fans who have, however you define 16 and 17, but they've been returned to crappy baseball very soon after they had a championship. I just don't think he wants to. I think he wants to see a Cardinals model. Now that's a difficult model to create because the Cardinals have, through the years, created a situation where their gate attendance is massive every year, and because they win every year.
Right.
And the Royals did do that, but I think the Cardinals was. They built a newer ballpark recently. Their ticket prices are higher. They draw more fans, even though the Royals drew a lot. They can get to 3 million and beyond. Their stadium's a little bigger. So, but I do get that sense. On the other side, though, you can point out that Cleveland hasn't been a super spending team, but they have been able to maintain winning. So perhaps his aggressiveness and urgency is going to be focused more on, hey, these teams that really can sustain it, they get waves of young talent.
Right.
And so if look at the injuries the Indians have had the last couple of years.
And
they keep winning. I mean, they lost their top 3 starters for good chunks of the season this year. And they just keep coming up with Beavers and guys like that who fill in.
I can't possibly believe that he would come from the Indians organization and not be very metrically and analytically driven.
Right.
Because they are. They're on the cutting edge of it.
Agreed. And, I don't know if they're the Astros have sort of resurrected careers with the spin rate thing and stuff like that. So, I think you're going to see a good combination of different things. And I think he would be somebody who, the one thing David Glass never ended up doing in his time, which could have helped the team, I think, even at this year at the trade deadline, if they were going to eat some of Ian Kennedy's salary, they could have gotten some prospect with the huge needs that people have in their bullpen. So he never ate salary. I think it would go in a different direction there. So I think it is good news. I'll say that. But I think maybe some people are overselling it.
Check out Danny's work, DannyKlingscale.com.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.